Okay.
Wish it
So
wasn't.
cyber defense, October 26th, 2024. Not the 27th, like my first prep branch said in GitHub.
Whoopsie.
That was off a day all week. um, so yeah, Henry mentioned a cheat sheet just a minute ago. I said, wait. Um, let's see, I'll put this up after I get rid of my start page, which has all sorts of interesting things on it. Here we go. This is shared if you're running Slack. So I've got a branch out here. There's one started for a PowerShell cheat sheet. I've got one for a Bash cheat sheet that I did last night because that's the way I roll. Under documentation, I added a cheat sheet folder, and I thought about putting this into, and I didn't put links in here, at least not yet. Just said, use the file structure. I thought about putting a folder for Bash and putting individual little cheat sheets in it, but I thought that'd just make things harder to find. So I've got one cheat sheet, and yes, I used AI assistants to make the outline, but then I had to tear it all apart and reorganize it. But
Verify all your command line options.
I put all the command line options in. I didn't run them all.
Make sure they all work when you test them.
I didn't test them all. I don't have to test, like, I tested help bracket, but you don't things don't have to be perfect to be committed if it's documentation, right? It's we iterate. Yeah. So that's why we find bugs and fix them.
If something's broken, open a pull request.
And there's lots of stuff here you can find and iterate on. So
exactly.
so I want to get to like the bug fixes, but I did put this out here, Henry, and it's not bad. This is why I wasn't going to wear this shirt today, but I also use this as some motivation. It's a Linux cheat sheet that's printed so you can read it like this.
That's
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I wondered what that was. I thought it was assembly initially.
This side is all regular expression, and I think I might put that one into. It's actually a fairly concise and decent summary, and it's only this long. You kidding me? So that looks like a cheat sheet waiting to happen. But I was just looking for, I want to find, where do I find a list of things that I want to include, right? So in short, documentation, there were a lot of things that I looked up to make sure I understood. Like I left info off of here because after I looked at info and then I talked to the AI about info, I'm like, info's crap. Wait, are we recording this? I got it over with already. Info is like only for some commands. Copilot said mostly the core new commands. Yeah, I almost say GNU and I almost say new because I don't know. But and that's a small subset of commands, and it's hard to use because it's a hyperlinked environment, but it's a text-based environment. So it's kind of like using links, the text web browser.
Right.
So yeah, but I can see why people don't use it much.
Yeah.
So there's help, which this is where you can get help for shell built-ins. So like the crazy, remember I mentioned that this is actually an executable bracket. You can say which or where bracket, and it'll say, oh, that's user sbin bracket or whatever. So if I'm looking for like the whole section on expansions, like variable expansions, I have to go into the man page for Bash. But if I want just to know stuff about bracket, of course, this popped up over here. It's smaller because it was on a bigger or a higher resolution monitor. So if I just want to know about help for bracket, I can do this, and it pops this out from the man page for Bash. I did this because this is always the first command I can think of that I know is only in Bash.
Very much not POSIX.
Yeah, very much not POSIX. I can't think of. Gawk is part of GNU, so that's a dumb one to try. Because GNU is not Unix and it's also not Bash. So I've got those. I've got some things about navigating the file system. I think even Axel will agree I probably didn't need to test these. CD directory name will take you to a directory. So these are real basic. We haven't talked much about push D and pop D.
That's Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reuse that.
So for push D and pop D, you can say, push D. Well, where am I now? It looks like I'm in this deep directory, right? And that points to my notes. Suppose I want to go do something in temp. So I want to push D into temp. And now it shows me the directory where I was, and it's just kind of an info thing that I've put this onto the push D. It's a stack. And now I do stuff here, but no, now I want to go into Etsy. I want to go into Etsy SSH. I'm sure I have SSH or whatever, or maybe not. Or is this just that slow? Oh, this is WSL. So I'll take any of them. No, I do have Etsy. Oh, look what I did. I said PWD. Let's do push D. There we go. Yeah. And then we'll do push D into Etsy. Maybe I do have SSH. I do. Okay. So now I'm there. Now I'll go push D someplace else, right? And where do I want to go? I want to go to root. Can I? Yeah, I can't do that. Push D to my home. You get the idea, right? I can keep doing this forever, almost. And there's a way to see the current push D stack, I think. I don't know what it is. Does this thing say?
There's a push D dash.
It's not in the TLDR. Doesn't matter. What I want to show you is that I can do pop D, and it'll start going back to the directories I was in. There's Etsy SSH, and then temp, and then the notes one I was in. Don't know, did we skip one? If you run out, the other notes. If you run out, it just says the stack's empty.
Yeah, it treats it like an array. Pushing the pop.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that's groovy. So you got things like this file system basics, LS, and some of the parameters that I use a lot. Yeah, copy with the two most important parameters, A and R. A implies R. You don't need the R. We have liftoff. I've gotten looks in meetings. I was in Washington, D.C. for an architect's training, and I was running not Kubernetes. I was running Docker on my laptop, right? And all of a sudden, these guys turned around and looked at me like, "Hi, I'm Chris from GoDaddy." So copy, move, RM. So these are, by the way, force. This is what force means. See, this is the kind of thing I looked this up because I wasn't really sure, right? Force just means don't prompt me. That's all. It doesn't mean
don't ask for confirmation.
Yeah, it just means don't ask for confirmation. There's one I got to get rid of, or somebody needs to get rid of. Change to home directory. It's probably when I was moving things around. Create a directory, make dir, and then -P. This is for think of it as being the word parent. If I want to create a directory like in PowerShell, it'll do this automatically, but I can do something that temp is already there. So I can say temp, make dir temp, temp dir one, and that'll work. But if I try to do this, 2 dir 3, that won't work because dir 2 isn't there yet. But if I want to tell it, I want you to make whatever parent directories are required, then I can do temp, dir 2, dir 3, dir 4, how many ever of them I need, and it'll make the whole path all at once. Make sense? RM dir requires that the directory is empty. There's a funky parameter called ignore empty or something, but I think that just means it deletes everything else, and that just sounds awfully terrifying to me, because if I've made a mistake and chosen a directory that's not empty, I don't want to proceed. Touch makes an empty file. Touch xyz.txt will create xyz.txt with nothing in it. I was on a site last night that gave a sample file, a sample script that said touch xyz.txt, and the next thing it said was cat xyz.txt, and it had content. No, it had content. They showed it spilling. I am a text file. It's like, no, you. I thought, well, kind of cast shade on this site. So these are kind of basics, right? Then I added a section on redirection. In Linux, there are these standard streams, standard in, standard out, standard error, and they have file descriptors. Those are numbers, 0, 1, and 2. And then redirection is about taking output that would normally for standard in on a terminal, it would usually come from your keyboard if you're interactive. Standard out would usually go to your console, and standard error would also usually go to your console, but it's a different stream, so you can redirect it separately. You can work with it separately.
It makes it easy to throw all the errors away and keep the output.
Somebody said something. I heard you say something. I thought. Okay, cool. So redirection for standard out. If you want to save your output to a file, you can use these greater than and double greater than. The difference between 1 and 2 greater thans is whether you want to overwrite a file or append to it. In either case, if the file's not there, it'll get created. Okay. Now, if you want to redirect standard error, and this is the same. If you put a 1 in front of those greater thans, that would be the same as what you've got here, because standard out is descriptor 1. 1 is standard out. And so since this is, how can I explain this? It's the default for output, right? And so you don't have to list it there. But if you want to redirect the other output stream to standard error, you have to put the 2 in there. Now, when I learned this, this kind of bugged me because, like, what the heck's a 2? If I want to, do I want to send the digit 2? Yeah, it's just the way it works. You can do this. You don't see this as often, so kind of stick this in your mind. This can be a file, or I think you can put a process there and bottle it up and it'll work. Why would you do that? Never mind. I don't know if that would work. It's a weird idea. Forget I said it, and we're still recording it. But yeah, you can have a file. You can have a command slurp from a file, basically. Now there's a special file. Everything's a file, so I'll just say file, called dev null. And dev null is a black hole. It's where data goes to die. And not after it goes there.
It stops existing.
There's no event horizon where the data accumulates. There's no Hawking radiation. It just goes away.
It's just gone.
Yeah. So if you send the file descriptor 2, if you redirect it to dev null, whoops, I wonder what happened if you append it to dev null. I don't think it matters.
No,
it just goes away. Yep. So you can do this with standard error, and you can do it with standard out. You can ignore, I don't know why I didn't put that in there, but you can just send the regular output to dev null. But then there's this weird syntax. There's different ways to do this. And in this syntax, you can get rid of the 1, but I want this to be a little less incomprehensible. So to ignore standard error and standard out, what this does first is that it redirects. We're good. I'm going to assume we're good. It redirects. So where it says 1 is redirected to dev null, that's exactly what it's going to do. I don't know what he's doing though. Hey guys, what's this about?
Axel just deleted dev/null.
All right.
It worked.
Reroute?
Yes.
Of course it works.
Yeah, of course it works.
Never done that before. I wonder what happens to everything going to dev null. It just gives errors. Oh, and you can't redirect those errors to dev null.
Yep. All right. The experiments continue.
It's like Rust. You actually have to deal with your problem.
Oh, I can't watch Kitty anymore.
That's okay. Weird.
So this is probably important for the competition, right? For your logging strategy.
Everything's important.
Well, yeah, no, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. So So this is difficult to explain if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult to understand if you've seen it before and then haven't used it. And it can be difficult to understand if you've gotten used to it. But who wants to explain this? Somebody else want to explain this? Anybody else know this well enough to explain it? Oops, sorry about that.
Redirect standard out to dev null.
I've used that before.
This one.
Oh, that's a variable. So when you run the initial command, it stores it into a variable, and
Well, variables have dollar signs, right?
the dollar sign.
That's an
I guess
ampersand.
it's cached. Oh, that's not a dollar sign. No, I can't see that.
Yeah.
I'm blind. Never
So
mind.
2 and 1.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And 1. What is bash?
Or we could just all delete dev. No. But
We're not. I'm not.
so
Probably better not.
yeah, so this is what's happening here. We want to ignore everything up to now has been relatively straightforward. This is one of the most important things you can do, though. This is ignoring all of the output. And when I say all, notice I didn't say ignore all output, because some apps are tricky and they will do weird things and you'll still see output. And I'm not responsible for those apps. So I'm being very careful in my wording. You're going to ignore standard error and standard out specifically. So this is what happens. This goes in 2 steps. And I mentioned, but a couple of you might not have heard it. You can leave the 1 off because 1's always the default, but I want to be clear, more clear. This part, 1 goes to dev null. If I stopped there, that would make sense. I hope, we were redirecting standard out to dev null to ignore the standard output. Good there? After I've redirected 1, if I want to redirect one of the standard streams to the other one, I do it this way. This is saying I want standard error to go to standard out. But where's standard out going? To dev null, right? And so I don't know why I can't say 1 goes to dev null, 2 goes to dev null. I've never tried that. But yeah, I just thought of that now. Why doesn't that work? Nobody does it. So if it did work, everybody would do it that way. So because it would be too easy, right? Not what I wanted.
So we're directing stream 2 to stream 1 and stream 1 to dev null.
Except in the other order. You're directing stream 1 to dev null, and then you're pointing stream 2 to wherever dev stream 1 is currently pointing. So you have to move stream 1 first. It is like that. Yes.
If you swap those around, then you're outputting standard error to the screen, and
yeah. So let's see here. So if I say, let me try to get something that will both produce both streams. So here's ls. So I can say ls. You can put more than one thing on an ls line, right? So I could say this, show me everything that starts with FL and show me everything that starts with R, and I'll get everything out. So what if I say, show me everything that starts with FL and show me everything that starts with X? I get an error message on standard error, and I get the FL lines on standard out. So if I say, well, let's redirect, and I'll use the 1, I don't have to do that, right? But I'll use the 1. Let's redirect 1 to dev null. And where did well, that's not what's supposed to happen. Where did standard error go?
I don't think you finished it LS.
Oh, duh.
There's no standard error.
Let's do what I meant. Let's just redirect 1 to dev null. I'm not cramped now. I shouldn't make as many. I hate typing in the little things. So that works, right? And if we redirect standard error to dev null, that works. Now, just for the sake of showing that the recommended approach works, right? We're going to redirect 1 to dev null, and then we're going to redirect 2 to wherever 1 happens to be pointing when we get to this part of the line, and it all goes away. So that's that. So now, understandable questions at this point.
Try doing redirecting to dev null menus.
Like this?
Also works, yeah.
Well, why don't they just tell you to do that?
Because one,
It's not, it's too big.
yeah,
It doesn't use bash magic.
Yeah, what'd you say?
doesn't use bash magic and takes like 5 more characters to write out before they do it first time.
And it's duplication.
Yeah. They do it that way because like if they're both going to the same place, it's
All right, my system is officially broken from deleting Dev Null.
It won't recreate it for you?
You didn't do it on your virtual, you did it on your local? Yeah, I can't open anything. Oh yeah, I'm sure it's not like
yeah.
Can you not reboot?
I could probably reboot. I have a TTY.
Yeah, you're gonna.
He is
Oh,
to
no.
destroy your system.
Yeah, it's basically saying it can't do anything with Dev Null. You can't recreate Dev Null. I don't think you can. What if I could try?
How to recreate Dev Null?
No, don't look it up. I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT.
Do Claude or ChatGPT. Sudo touch.
I'm running Llama 3.1.
Dev Null.
Hey, let's go.
Probably have to have it.
Are you running with Olama?
Yeah. I'm
Let's
running
go.
Llama inside of Leo. All right. Brave. Let me
Huh?
try. I'm running Llama inside of Leo from Brave.
Yeah, I'm running my own Llama on my machine. Redirecting it to Brave.
Because
it's the way to go.
I need to set the permissions on Dev Null to be correct.
Llama is where it's at, dude.
They do different things. The first one sends both standard output and standard error to Dev Null, discarding them both. But the one that is recommended sends both to the same place, but it does it by sending standard output to Dev Null and then redirecting standard error to wherever standard output goes to. So I'm never doing that again.
If there was a use case where you had the, I guess they weren't both being discarded, like you was
So here's
like if you wanted to push standard error to standard out without discarding them.
Well, here's what I've got in mind. So here's a function. Destination equals $1, right? And it's like a logging thing. You're going to log someplace and you say, some command, and then you say one goes to destination. You could still say, oh, well, and then, you could do that. I wonder if this keeps the serialization in place, or because you could still say, right? But now you really have two variables where you only need one.
I just touched the file, said permissions to 777. Everything's working, except Dev Null is no longer a black hole.
No, it's a file, right?
Wow. I see you're right. Yeah, you're writing to it.
Oh crap, your dish. Your dish.
It's just errors.
Well, so it's supposed to be a character. It's supposed to be a C, RW, 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 owned by root. You probably didn't make it a C. You probably didn't make it a character-based file. You probably made it a regular file.
It's probably a regular file. I don't know how to change that.
Okay, everybody. Next week's homework.
Next week's homework, delete your Dev Null.
I love the way he says, sure. But they do different things. Okay. So I might remember to put that out there along with that caveat, which is weird. So I thought I had a use case where that would make sense, but no, I'm not sure. I might test that. Like, what if I wonder if one of them, like if the order of things is like standard out, standard error, standard out, standard error, if one of them will keep the order the same and the other one won't. Because the recommended syntax points right at standard out, points standard error at standard out. And the other one just independently points them both to the same place. If it's dev null, I don't care. That's fine. But if it's a logging destination, I care about that. Yeah. So
what's really funny to me right now is everyone overwrites dev null. So it's only showing the last error that happened.
Interesting. Let's park that for a bit. But yeah, parking lot deal. Don't you hate that? Let's put a pin in it. Um, even though it's the most interesting thing that's happened so far.
What usage?
Yeah, so other things. So those are kind of stuff we've seen a lot of on and off at least. There's some other things. This group I called file system utilities, DF and DU. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to clear. DF is a quick way to get a report on your disk sizes. If you run it by itself, oh great, I've got all these. So snap volumes, if you install something using a snap utility, it uses something called fuse mounting. It puts its own
something like Docker, right?
Yeah, so that it can have its own little VM. So we can ignore that.
It can. They have like, I forget what their volume drivers are. It's weird, but they do that as well.
So I'm just going to get rid of those. grep-v means get rid of everything that matches. So that is a lot more sane. So what it shows you is the only interesting thing right here, because these are really huge numbers, we'll get to that in a second, is that it does show you the percentage of your disk space that's used. My driver space is used a lot. Oh, my C drive, which shows up in WSL as MNT/C. It's 86% used. Yeah, well, there you go. But the better way to do this, this is in the cheat sheet, is use -H because those numbers don't mean anything to me.
What does H stand for?
Human readable. And then you get this.
Oh, you can actually read it. Holy cow.
Yeah. And if you sort it, and let me get rid of snap fuse again. So now you've got something smaller. And if you want to, you can actually, all right, these are all gigs. I don't have anything with mixed. There's one. I'm going to how do I do this? Let me see if I can sort this differently. I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, it did. Okay. So I told sort, which is coming up in the utilities, that I want to sort on this K is for 3. I want the third field, which is this one. And then when I say human here, it says it understands the K, the M, and the G, which is nice, right? So I can still sort without using the really ugly numbers.
That's very smart.
Yeah. Yeah, it is smart of it. So, cha. DU is right next to it. So DU is something. So DH runs like instantaneously. DU doesn't. So I'll just look like at this repository. If I just run DU, I don't know what happens. I don't ever just run it by itself. Oh, okay. So every directory gets a number put next to it. Yay. There's another one that has an H that I always use. And now every directory is showing its size. But I don't ever want to know every directory because ick. So what I do is I say SH. S is a summary. I just want to see summaries. And when I do that, I just get the summary of the current directory. Well, that's not really what I want either, because usually I'm looking for the fat guy or something like that.
Subdirectory.
Yeah. So this is my usual way to use this, is I say DUSH and then star, and now it'll give me there's not sources. Oh, yeah, it is so far. So now it'll give me everything in this directory with its cumulative size, which is tiny. Meeting notes leads the way. And obviously, this has to go into each directory recursively. So the larger the tree is like if you run this at the root of your file system, it'll take a while to run this when you go do something else or eat lunch and go visit your best friend and run a marathon.
And maybe it's done and hasn't gone down.
Yeah, it works, but 89 meg 2 years ago. Michael Tyson. That's what we got up to. I don't know why. Maybe I put the end of year, 213 meg last year. So I mean, that didn't take forever. Those are my SQL Sif GitHub repos that I have cloned. So that's disk usage and DF disk. I don't know what that stands for. Disks, fixed. Don't know. File is another quick one. This is, I think the main reason I use this is if there's an executable I want insight into, a lot of times it will be a script. But before I load that bad boy into Vim or whatever your editor is, I'd really like to know that it's not a binary. So, I can say which LS, and that'll show me it's user bin LS. So there's a clue it's user bin, but not everything in bin is a bin. So I can substitute that, right? Well, I won't do that. I'll just do this. I say, tell me about the file user bin LS, and it will say, and this is what a binary usually looks like in Linux. This is ELF. Look for that word ELF, and that tells you this is a binary 64-bit shared object. The rest of this is interesting, but an ELF 64-bit shared object, and there's a build ID and everything. So that doesn't look too good, right? On the other hand, if I look at Python, oh, please have a Python, user bin Python, and I say file user bin Python, it'll tell me, thanks. And this will be linked. I could have guessed that I needed one of those. So read that 8. Well, I'm current. That's an L. Shoot, Python's usually a script. What am I doing wrong?
The Python interpreter?
The Python.
Not the interpreter, the launcher.
The launcher is that. I mean, that's the executable, the interpreter, and the interpreter launches the
2.7, nice.
You got 3.27. Yay.
You're 4 versions behind, my dude.
Well, here, this will be easier.
You have Python 2 installed?
I don't.
Yes, you do.
It does. Maybe this is old. I might have installed it. I was going to make a project on GitHub. I threatened my coworkers with this. That was going to take the script that launches Python. Maybe it's a 2.7 script. Hang on.
Oh boy.
No. And it was going to swap out the Python version on the fly based on some configuration information so that people could still run ZenMap in Linux. I was dared. Do I have a script? Well, here, file. I think it's got to be a file I've got someplace. And of course, it's a link. Okay. There we go. After years of redirection, it'll also tell you if it's text. At the competition, one thing we do a lot of times is look in our web servers. If there's an image directory, make sure that they all say they're images, because this isn't going off file extensions or anything. It's going off a magic file that knows how to identify a file by its signatures, or by the content, I should say.
I know the JPEG signature.
Well, let's hear it.
It's FF0 FFD8.
There you go. Anybody else want to add one?
Is it PNG 42?
I don't know. How about the bomb for Unicode? Anybody? No, me either. I don't know any of them. I can identify a text file when I see it. Don't know the Unicode.
All files are text files.
Yeah.
I know
If you're weird
text,
enough.
I know if it's a text file, I can open it in Nano.
Yeah, but Nano won't tell you. Well, it'll tell you if it's a Unicode file, but
Bash.
Is that a Unicode file?
Text file.
There you go. That's
There you
all
go.
I need to know.
all right. Let's see. So I've got find listed here, and I put in two of the most common uses, name and iname. I don't know what TLDR says about find. It's got more information. There's so much you can do with find. I just didn't know what to say beyond that. This would be a good one if you want to get good at it, to look up, to find a web article on, find 2 different web articles on the top 10 uses of find, so that you'll know 15 different things or something like that. But
find 2, no such file or directory. Different, no such file or directory. Web, no such file or directory. Articles, no such file or directory.
All right.
I couldn't find 2 different web articles.
Nice try, though. So the way you use find, those two use cases I showed you, is that you type find, and then you have to give a directory name, I think. And I think that's, and usually if the 2 I would usually use are this directory, which is dot, or the root directory. But usually I try to search from the folder I'm in. So find dot, and then you can say name, and but this needs an exact name. So should find my redirect and do this. There we go, found it. I rarely use name, because usually I'm looking for something like, right? And so for that would be iname. And iname is, so name is case sensitive and everything has to be exact. Iname lets you be case insensitive and use wildcards. So it's not a regex, there's a different operator for that. So for this one, I could say, find me all my shell scripts. Oh gosh, this will be fun. And because I think I have like Python virtual environments in here or something that'll have lots, but let's find out. So that was fast, but it found all my shell scripts, right? You can also tell it things like, this is probably the only other one I'll put up here, but you can say type F for file, type D for directory. You probably say type L for link, all the different file types. And don't forget to end your quotes. So find, it has lots of things. One of my favorite things is that there's an exec argument where you can then run commands on every file you find. Living, go big or go home. So LN is to create symbolic links. I'm not going to go through the I think we'll go through this section in the next one, then we'll take a break probably. LN is to create symbolic links. Symbolic links point at other files. And you should create symbolic links, because hard links are too sneaky.
I tend to shoot you in the foot. I kept having it happen to a friend.
Yeah, hard links they're actually just regular files in the file system. So you have 2 files that are the same file. It's just harder to know that they're linked together. But to create a symbolic link, let's find something in Etsy that I could link to. Oh, how about Etsy password? So to link to Etsy password, I would say LN, and you need the -S to make it a symbolic link. And then you Now this is where you have to remember this pattern. The file being acted upon almost always goes at the end of a Linux command. And here you have to convince yourself that the file being acted upon more is the one we're creating, okay? So you put the target here, Etsy password, and then you put the name of the link you want to create next, which might be not Etsy password, just to be clear, and it'll create that. And you can see it, I sorted by time, so it showed up down here. I could type that faster than the file name. But this will now act in most situations, almost all situations, just like Etsy password. So I can cat it and it'll show me the information, right? It's a symbolic link. And I can't remember how to do this.
What are you trying to do?
I want to show I know it's a directory, that's the whole point. I want to show what's in it. Rats. All that's inside, does anybody know if you look inside a link, what it contains? Trivia question.
I don't think I've ever successfully opened the link. I don't think I have either.
And I think whenever I try to do that, Linux just routes it to whatever it's linked to. That's always happened to me.
All it has in it is the name of the file that it links to. And then it has a type of L. That's it. And so the operating system sees the type of L, says, hey, this is a link, looks at the content, it goes there. And then which we've already used a couple of times, but there is a -A. And so when you say which LS, it shows you that. I doubt that there's more than one LS, but hey, there are. So what this tells me is that if I run LS, I'm going to get this one. It's the first on the path or whatever. But there is another one here that if I got rid of the first one, that one would run. And
the same.
yeah, let's look. They are?
Because the root bin is a similar to user bin.
Oh, the
Folders.
The folders are similar. One of them is a similar.
Right. Yeah. Root bin is a similar to root user bin. We just figured out how to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, let's see. So if we'd say stat bin and then stat user bin, right? Anyhow, I've got a section on working with text. And then there's a couple other, there's a section on permissions and one on system monitoring and management. I don't think we need to go through. It's got some things we've worked with quite a bit, like system control, the IP command, resolve control, which is nice. You can set your DNS servers, at least for this session, and see what your DNS servers are, demessage, general control. And then scripting basics is basically half of what's in that sample script I've written for you guys, which we should just put a copy of it in the cheat sheet section, I think. But I see the time here. I kind of want to get onto looking at the homework that we all did. Totally. So if you guys want to take a break, yeah, I think we should take a break. Well, I was late getting all my stuff put together. So, but yeah, it's been a while. I'd like to drink my soda. So why don't we come back at like 11:30 and you guys tell me if you want to look at more of this or get to the homework. There's a lot of this. You can read this at home if you want. So cool. 11:30. All right. It is 11:30, 4:30. I didn't hear an alarm. It is 8 p.m. Sometimes it's the detail. Howdy, howdy. So
Hello.
big cheat sheet. It's a pretty good cheat sheet, but it's in GitHub, so
It's not merged yet,
it's not. There's PR for it.
which has been reviewed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks. Shall I merge it?
That's you.
Well, I don't know if it's been approved, but oh, it has been approved. Thank you.
Approved and closes 3.
Closes what?
Closes 3.
Closes 3.
The issue.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you can do that like as soon as I.
Yeah, you
Ah,
can
nice.
add these keywords like closes number 3.
Oh, let's see that.
Yeah, if you scroll up there.
This is good.
Closes number 3 there.
Oh, that's all you have to do?
Yeah.
Cool. Check that out, guys. Put in a comment, says closes issue 3. Now when I do this, so it's still open, right?
Yep, there's 3 issues open.
Yep. And so this is issue 3. Oops, sorry. Yeah, this one. And I've assigned it to me. And so thanks, man. Did I misclick? Oh, there it is. Now I'll go and I would assume when I merging it will close it. Squash and merge is what I always want. Confirm squash and merge. My font's really big. It's like, where's everything going? We'll do that. And
Oh, a lot of things just happened.
yeah. And I'm starting to delete my branches because otherwise I find I'm getting confused. It's a lot better for me on my client if I try to push a branch and GitHub tells me that branch doesn't exist. So as I was finding, it's just better for me. So yeah. These aren't as well defined as that work where the branch name is like a Jira project number. Anyway.
It didn't work because I didn't put in the initial comment. So I guess you would have had to run that.
Oh. No?
So I'll say closed by, that was 18?
Yep.
Issue 18.
We will learn about that.
Oh, I should have closed the comment.
Oh. That's okay. Bling. It's gone. All right, cool. One thing I'm going to look at this week is opening up this wiki section. So I'm wondering if for our documentation, we could use the wiki so we didn't have to do PRs for all of it. Yeah, I don't think you have to do PRs for wiki. When I started a top level page, it was just like, you want to publish that? And so I'm hoping that means there's no PRs on wikis. There's probably security around it, but I suppose I let you guys do that. So I just have to see if contributed. We could check that out in our Evil Lair private channel. So, I should rename it now. We haven't renamed it for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Benevolent Dictator's Evil Lair. So, do you guys want to look at the scripts or more of getting the impression the cheat sheet was sinking in? But if you want to look at more of that, we can. Vote. Conduct a vote, Isaac.
Conduct a vote?
What do we want to do? Find out.
PowerShell.
He conducted his vote. It was anonymous and had one voter.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's almost like it's
Let me clarify.
perfect democracy.
Yeah.
We can all
The
vote for the
future.
one thing I choose, guys.
We have one option. Would you like to vote on it?
Yeah. That's other countries.
That's a petition.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion for PowerShell.
PowerShell?
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, calling the question. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
I think you were asking about the homework.
Yeah, we don't actually have anything ready for. Well, we could talk about PowerShell, but
Okay, so
we're not prepped.
did you vote twice? Are you from Chicago?
I think he's dead. He's alive and dead. It's that quantum superposition. You got
What
two
he
observed votes.
What he did, I'll bet, is that he faked his death so then he could register for another social security number. So then he can vote twice legally.
Why have you
Well-
thought about this?
Huh?
Why have you thought about this?
Stop asking silly questions, Mr. Pumphrey.
Vertical tap.
You're assuming he thought about it and didn't just say it.
Is that brave? That's brave.
Yeah, of course this is brave.
Okay, so let's
So-
the dictator have the veto power here.
Well, he does, of course. So, yeah, I meant like continue on the cheat sheet or look at the Linux script and the fixes and all that. But we could leave the Linux script as homework. Although this is a busy week, but it's really like what, 4 things, I think,
Yeah, it's like 5 things,
5
like
things.
6 things.
But there's like 4 places in the video, I think, because there's 2 of them that double up. There's like a
There's 3 in one script and there's 2 functions in the other one.
yeah. Let me. Hey, I think that's in GitHub. Let me look. Meeting notes. I think the assignment's in this week. Here we go. So, woo. So there's one at 11:05. Why fix? And then at 13:45, there's one problem, something that's broken 2 ways. One being the loop doesn't loop.
I didn't-
It does loop. It
I
loops
didn't
once.
I didn't think it was
Right.
Oh no,
the same fix both problems.
it does. Yes, yeah. So
That was an intended feature.
it does. It loops once, and it should loop more than once.
What?
And then it's 16:15. There's something with the weekday function. And then also with the weekday function, so it's the same place. It's a platinum thing. I made it platinum because I think testing is important. And then way at the end, there's something about the, there's a couple things about the search history deal. I can share with you that I don't need to do it there. I'll run it for you. Because it's beautiful. Now I have to go. I'm storing this repo in Windows because whatever, maybe I need to move it to Linux for a while. But users, this documents, get SQL. CDC. I need to do it this way. 2025 meeting notes, 2024 10-.
All right, I'm sending you a command line tool.
Don't.
Living off the land and all that, but this is painful.
I've got tab. That's all I need. I could make a link, but things move. Okay, so prof.out. I don't know where that came from. So here's my search history solution, I guess. So if I run this, there's more than 3 now. This talks about 3 things. Barely fits on the screen with this big font. Here's the one that's bad because it, doesn't show. That one's a waste of time. But I think it came up when we were first talking about this stuff. Here's one that works, cuts the first 7 characters off. Somebody, I think one of you guys mentioned this. It works. It might be the best one. Who knows? There's one using awk that we talked about. But then I was like, well, can we get the robustness of awk where we just say get rid of the first thing on the line and not have this bug that I point out in the awk output? And so I had two ways to do it. And this one I call search history, yeah, but why said? Because I don't like said. I had to use a tool called said for this. I didn't even put it on the cheat sheet.
You don't like said?
Said syntax stuff.
Because for my regular expression, I had to use bracket, bracket, colon, space, colon, bracket, bracket instead of backslash s.
Escape characters and stuff.
Because it's POSIX compliant. It lets me say -e for extended regular expressions, but then it makes me do that. Okay, and then this next one is called search history, yeah, but why awk? Because it's ugly, but look, it still did the same thing. And then search history, okay, maybe I can live with this, does the same thing. But I don't think, I was thinking, you know, if it came down to actually making the decision at work, I might stick with the one that just lops off the first 7 characters because everybody could read it better. But and this is the sadness of a world where not enough people understand regular expression. I had one time I had some code I wrote that relied on this algorithm. It's not a complicated algorithm that I'd learned in school, and it would work all the time. 0 edge cases. But I was the only one in the entire department who understood what it did. So we spent like half a year figuring out a rule of thumb kind of replacement that also nobody understood, but at least they could understand the code. It was still in use when I went back, worked at the same place 16 years later. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, cheat sheet code or wing it with PowerShell? Cheat sheet? Yeah.
Sure, cheat sheet.
Okay. And then let's leave that's pretty good, probably timing wise. And then we'll just slide the homework out, do what you can this week. I know who's got midterms. This man's playing chess. He didn't think we'd notice, but we did. Yeah. Who has you have midterms?
I don't have midterms.
Oh, okay.
I'm on a different schedule.
Okay, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm lifeless now. I got out of my one college class for the semester through a massive Python script that took me too long to write.
Nice.
I don't have anything else to do in my life now.
Bring your massive Python script next week.
I have it right now.
App,
yeah.
And then do you make the app and over the top? And then he just said, okay, you pass?
No, he said that if I did it, then he would let me pass.
There you go.
I have it right here.
We'll do it. I'll give you time next week, though.
Okay, that's fine.
I have a lot of work this coming week.
Okay. Sounds like you did. This week was busy, too. It sounds like.
This week was a bit busy.
Yeah.
It was more, I had a weird weekend, and then I had school, so I couldn't fix anything.
Hence deleting dev null. Something had to happen.
Something had to happen.
How about you guys? Any midterms this week? Or? No? Okay. So do what you can. Eagle Scouts are overachievers anyway.
So, what Oxford open quality?
Just updated
Did I close? Oh, here we go.
Set up my firewall just now with IP tables, and I have it logging every rejected connection. And I'm looking through here, and I just have thousands of attempts of connection through multicasted DNS. I do mean thousands.
Now I can use the main branch.
Kind of funny.
Yep. That was a little scary.
It's like,
where
would they ever
we?
get the hint? Because it's just dropping it, and then it just logs it and drops it.
You're there, weren't you?
Yep. Okay. Now, to me, these are some of the most useful. It's kind of cool. We came back to some of these commands are some of the most useful things I use when I'm fiddling around at the terminal, and I do things that sometimes I'm like, oh, just don't worry about what I'm doing, and I just pull text out of the sky. A lot of times it's because I'm using these text related utilities, and some of these I've already done. I left one of them out that I'm about to use, I think. But let's look at cut, and I might throw grep in here. Who knows? I might use several of these.
Oh boy.
But let's too big. That looks like it. I promise. The path makes it too big. Oh, okay. There we go. That'll work. So we have, we'll pick on Etsy password. Okay. File we all know about. And let me get the cheat sheet. Not that one. Actually, yeah, I'm going to duplicate this and get it on my other screen in front of me. Okay. I got tunes over here. Oops. All right. All right. So we've got Etsy password, right? And I want to show you this just to remind you of the structure of it a little bit. We don't need to worry about what all these different fields are. Some of them should look familiar, like the first one's a username. The last one is the shell for that user, the default login shell. The other ones are other stuff. We don't really care right now. What we do care about is, how is this file delimited? What separates the fields? It's not a trick question. Colons, right? So the first field is root, then the next one is X, next one is 0. And it's all separated by colons. That's how we know what the fields are. So the first command, cut, will let us do things like pick out individual fields from this file, right? So I can say, for example, if I only want the first 3 fields, root X0, I can say cut that I want fields 1 to 3. And they always, in the examples I grew up on, they always put the 1 right next to the F. And I kind of hate that. So I usually type -F 1 to 3, backspace. Just bugs me. And then you have to tell it that the delimiter in this case is a colon. What's the default delimiter? White space, regular space. And now we're going to say, I want to do this to Etsy password. It'll give me just those 3, right? Pretty useful. Can't think, I did this because I can't think of a file that has white space that separates it. We could use sed to replace the colons with spaces, but I've just been traumatized by sed. So you can do this, and that works fine. You can say, pretty sure I didn't, you can say, I just want to see 1 and 3. You get it this way. We're not sure, does cut have a way? Sometimes dollar means the last field. I don't know if this is going to work. No, too bad. So I don't know a way to get the last field unless you know the actual number. Is it 7? Thanks. And this is kind of useful because it gives you the user's name and their login shell, right? Which would be useful for a hacker. Seems like it. So that's cut. Those are the parameters I usually use, the delimiter and the field numbers, right? and that's useful. And the thing I told you I forgot, there's a command I don't think I put in here. We used this last year when we were writing a bash script to filter files we wanted to see. And it's called column. And you could tell column that I want you to produce a table for me, -T, and that it must be D for delimiter, that the delimiter that you're going to look for is a colon. Hang on, separator -S from the ISO Committee on Consistent Parameters. So I'd say I want -T means make a table, and -S means look for a separator that's colon, and it'll do this, right? Yeah. So that's a nice one when you're formatting the output of cut. In fact, this is going to look bad unless I do this. Sorry. You could, instead of, well, let's just do this. You could cat all of Etsy password to that thing, and it'll show it to you like this. Which, oh my goodness, that's a lot easier on the eyes. So yeah, I didn't include column. That would have been a nice one to put in there. It's not on my shirt, and it wasn't on my mind, so it didn't make the cut. I don't think it's on my shirt. So that's cut. Now, looking back at my cheat sheet, right after cut is grep. Oh, yeah, let's just.
Is grep interchangeable with power grep?
No. Power grep's a Windows thing.
Darn it, Windows.
Darn it. Why do you have to have such useful stuff? Okay, here we go. So grep is going to let you select individual rows as they flow through grep. Select or reject, whichever way you want to put it. So if I just want to see, if I'm looking for things that might have something to do with SSH, I could say grep SSH, and it'll show me, oh, there's only one that has SSH in it. grep stands for something, general regex parser or something like that. If I want to see all of the ones that
I have the name.
Yeah.
So I'm on Wikipedia. We can trust Wikipedia.
I can.
Great.
What is it?
I got a global regular expression search and.
Ooh, I like mine better. Here's if I want to see everybody's using bash as a shell, I can do this and find out it's just me, root, Mike, and testing. I have a feeling Mike's from last year. But, so you can pick out, it's very basic incarnation. You can search for literal strings, right? But you can't do this. Bash isn't anywhere in there, right? So it's case sensitive by default. So I put in a few parameters. You're not surprisingly, you're going to hear me say that there's a number of nice things you can do with bash. TLDR is probably going to go into a little more detail, by the way, on all of these than my cheat sheet does, right? Mm-hmm. But for bash, I feel weird. I put -P in here. I almost always use -E, but -P is like better than -E. I just am in the habit of using -E. -P means you can use Perl compatible regex. And that's kind of the gold standard. It's probably where regex was first widely used. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they come from. But -P or -E lets you do things like, I'm trying to think of something that won't work without the higher functioning regexes. Can you even do this? Nope. So this is about as simple a regex as you can try to use. This is called alternation. where I'm trying to match either the string bash or the string no login. Am I going to make a liar out of myself? No. So I'm just saying it's got to match one of these things. It's like the simplest thing you can do with regex. But without the -e or -p, it just won't work. But with -e, it works. Okay, so if you're gonna use a regex, please, you're just gonna need to throw -e or -p on there. They're both capitalized. The only times I use -p, because I've just got my muscle memory trained the other way, is when I try -e and it's like, oh, that didn't work. So you can see now it's collected no login and bash. It's got both of them, right?
Oh, it's a capital E.
Yeah, capital E, capital P.
Why is there a lowercase e?
I
E
forget.
specifies patterns for regex matching.
Pattern matching and regex matching are separate things.
Alright,
Why?
let's so
Pattern might be a. You said it specifies what? Pattern
Well,
match.
pattern syntax is capital E or capital P.
Yeah, and little e.
And then little e is you specify the patterns you want to match. So it says interpret. So you give it patterns, and this says interpret patterns by extended regular expressions. Apparently.
Don't know.
Allegedly.
I know you can use little e to pull them from a file, can't you? Or, oh no, that's independent. So I don't know. It's not on my cheat sheet. How would I know? So
A lot of.
I'm gonna start saying that. So I also included R and I. Now, for R, I'm gonna. Funny things happen if you start typing on a read-only cheat sheet. I'm gonna head over to Etsy, and I'm going to say I want grep. I'm gonna use P, and I'm gonna use -R, and I'm going to search for SSH. And if you do that, boom, you leave the file part off. Well, I suppose you could, I don't know, if you specify it, I don't know what happens. But then it'll go recursively and find all the files that that match that and show you the matches. So every time I do this, I feel bad about something I left off. Like -L here will just list the files instead of blowing you away. And here's a good use for sending the errors away. Right? Redirect to dev null. It's also a good use for not having color on your terminal. So anyway, well, there's besides P and R, the other one I put in the cheat sheet was -I to make it case insensitive. I don't need P here because I'm not using the regex, but that's the idea. Regex becomes most useful by far as you get good, or sorry, grep becomes most useful when you're good at regular expressions, because you can't represent everything with regular expressions, but you can match a lot. It's like AI for search and replace, basically, or at least or I don't know. It's like search on steroids, but it's a little hard to master. I learned it twice. I learned it, kind of forgot it, and then I learned it again. And I will show you where I learned it. This is buried in the video someplace, but there's this.
Also, the cheat sheet for regex.
I want to build one off of this part of my shirt. But there's this place called regularexpressions.info. It's in the video. I know it looks dumb. I mean,
regex buddy.
regex buddy is what
owl.
It is. But Jans, I think is this guy's name. He's recognized as a regex maven. So he doesn't have to update his website because he's one of, the people. He's a man. He's not the man. Yeah. Yeah.
He writes it through JavaScript.
So I don't, yeah, he has a quick start. So I don't know what that's about, but he has this tutorial. And his tutorial works the best if you download the free version of his text editor, which I have since purchased and still use because I don't use it regularly anymore. But one of the things I like about it compared to a lot of other editors is that by default, oh, sorry.
Does it have a Linux port?
It's called Wine. By default, you see over here on the right, these huge boxes. Those are the search and replace boxes by default. So if I need a regex, there's room for it. I don't have to like wonder if the line feeds are right and everything. So, and after taking his tutorial, this was really nice, right? Yeah. So when I go to parse our scoreboards from iScore at the end of the year, I use this. It's like I'm going to parse an entire web page and bring it down to a CSV line, right? So, yeah. So
install Wine.
Well, you don't have to use his. I mean, he refers to it, but you could use anything, right?
Oh,
so,
is that it?
Well, it's not a. This is it. Also,
I need something that can run Windows software.
At least have themes so it doesn't look so bad.
Every time I try.
I do not understand the world's enchantment with themes. Lately, it's like, oh, we have a dark theme. Give us money. It's like,
as long as it
tame yourself, people.
As long as they have
the content.
So, but
I would never pay for dark theme.
Look,
there's like an infinite dark theme.
I've
I've
spent hours making my theme, making everything run Dracula theme. Hours.
Well, I'm glad that you've invested your time so
nice.
well. I'm glad. Good. So but seriously, he's got this breakdown of all these regex topics. And it starts with, I think, literals. Is that what it said? No, special characters first, which is a good place to start. And then, yeah, it's narrative, but we can all read. And I don't know anybody who's gone through this material. It didn't feel like they knew what was going on, right? And but where's someplace in here he explains, how you can follow along and do this stuff, along with him in an editor. I just skipped over something here. Because I remember following along and doing all of this stuff as he was presenting it further in. But yeah, recursion, subroutines, some of that you don't need to know, but atomic grouping, mode modifiers, Unicode, free spacing and comments, branch reset, I don't know what branch reset, back references, all this stuff is good to know.
Does it go over performance impacts or some of that stuff too?
It might. That matters.
Some of those can
be
highly
like look arounds.
Well, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a very good, it's a good tutorial. You need some time to do it. If you don't want to invest this much time, you can just go to, cheat sheets or, the 10 things you need to know about regex. And
always ask Jeopardy.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. So it's good to learn regex though. I mean,
everybody in the registrar programming team, if they have trouble with regex, they all come to me. And I am not even on a quote unquote programming team, but they'll come to me. It's that much of a neglected skill. And if they all knew it, there's stuff that they could do that they struggle with, but they could just pop in a regex and do it. And they can't go to the regex sites and say, just build it for me, because they don't know how. There's just stuff about regex they don't know. And when I see in our config files, like we're supposed to, for example, we have security scanners, and you're supposed to write rules that say, this one's an exception. Don't count this as a security problem. And then a reason, because it's X. And they write exceptions that are way too broad because they can't write the right regex. So they say something like, anything with 8 octo characters in it. It's like, no, that describes way too much stuff. So, yeah, it's just, if people were better at regex, it gets used a lot for things like that in config files, and it's a security problem.
There is a really neat tool that I use for regex.
Yeah.
It's just a random GitHub project, but it's really nice. It'll generate it.
Tell me. Let's put it up.
It's I don't know if I can do it.
No, I mean, just tell me what it is.
It's a regex generator. Just search that and you should pull it off. It's not on GitHub. It's just a web tool. That's it right there. That's it. That's the one I use. It's really nice. And it runs really well. You just plug in the text and you just select what you want to select.
Cool.
And it just generates it for you. It's not, I mean, you still want to know regex. You're not just.
Oh yeah, first result when I search regex generator.
Yeah. You can do individual character sequences. It's pretty intelligent. I've used it for a handful of random projects I've done.
Yeah, like the Elasticsearch machine learning models, like when you build a model now based on data sets, it'll automatically start building the regex parsing logic behind it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to click on this.
I think I'm doing it right. And it'll add it to things that you want to grab.
Okay, cool.
But either way, it's good to have the knowledge.
Oh yeah, definitely. This isn't a replacement for a skill issue of not knowing how to use it.
No.
This isn't a replacement, but it is really nice, even if you do know it, because it's a lot faster than writing.
Well, I like that graphical because it helps you understand which section you're trying to.
And the explanations are also really nice on what you're grabbing.
Yeah. And I think down below you say copy regex, right? And they give you the regex.
Yeah. And then it also has it for a lot of different applications.
Number 4 has your.
That's the regular expression, but if you go down all the way to the bottom, and in number 5, this is probably my favorite part, is you can select which language you want to export it to. And it has it for the specific library that has it uses. Like for Python, you use RE package, and it has it built in for you. Java, Tristan would really like the Java ones.
Wouldn't he though?
But it has grep, which is really nice.
I wonder which grep. Oh, grep-p. So it should look a lot like let's see. I wonder if they list let's say they don't list Perl separately. Probably looks a lot like that.
Just Perl.
You'd be frightened and surprised.
Yeah, I know. Pretty much every Linux package and library is dependent on Perl for some reason. Because it uses Perl.
We don't use it that much, but
every time I try to install something on Linux, it's like, oh, we need Perl. And I'm like, why do you need Perl? Why are you using Perl?
So we're at 12:13, I see. So let's can people be here for 12:30, really?
I don't even leave until 12:45.
12:30. Okay. Let's see if we can get there. All right. So let's look. We got so head and tail are the top and bottom of the exactly. I'm already in it.
Toes, just the head and the tail.
Yeah, so head will print whatever the default is. That looks like 10 to me. You can also say how many you want. You can say 20. Tail is the same thing, but it munches off the bottom of the file instead of the top. Ta-da.
-F, right?
Oh, should have put that in there.
Keep it going as it appends.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so if I'm over here in this other session, I can say tail -F, and here's the file I've started to echo to. in the other session. And so now it's going to show me that file, but notice it didn't return to the command prompt. And so if I come over here and I do this again, the other session is going to continue to show the output. So it's like a log monitor. And it'll just continue to show whatever I throw into it. Aha.
You don't have centralized logging. It's kind of keep opening the file up.
So then when you're done, you can hit Control C, but don't lean on it, as Axel told us earlier. But, okay. Sort.
If the file's really long too, there's another command to say like the last. Does it default to the last 10 or is it? Well, but I thought tail.
You have to do tail, and then you have to spec like N-5,
N200 or N
whatever you want.
N10.
And you can do tag at the beginning of the file.
Yeah.
If you don't do that tail, it's gonna start at the top.
No, it'll start like here's.
Well, if you got a file that's got like.
So this is just the last lines. 10. Yeah. And I don't think it has to scan. I think it'll start at the bottom and scan up. So you won't have to wait. Yeah. That's how I'd write it. So I assume that's how somebody has by now. The next thing, so we've gotten through, a couple of these here. Where did this one? So we looked at cut and grep and head and tail. There's those. There's another way to do this with dash lines equal, but it's the same thing. This is easier to remember. More is less and less is more. There's two different ways to page things. Less in the past has been more efficient, but I would imagine I don't know if they're the same now. In fact, now I'm thinking they might not be, but less for sure doesn't wait. It just starts putting stuff on the screen right away. More might buffer a screen full before it dumps stuff out. I'm not sure about that. That used to be the difference. Not sure about now, but they'll both is password bigger than a screen? They'll both paginate output for you. Is it? Yeah, it is. It's a little bigger than a screen. So you can say more password and it'll show you, one screen at a time. You hit space to continue. You can also pipe stuff to them instead of just naming a file. So you can say cat password and then pipe it to more or less. So any command that produces output, you can do that with. Wouldn't have to be something as trivial as cat. Sort we looked at a little bit. What were we looking at? We were looking at the output of DF, right? We'll put this up again. I think the command was df-h- pipe to sort -k or 3h. Maybe. Oh, forgot. Before this was the second part of the pipe, but I think it was grep-v to get rid of snap fuse. Something like that. Yeah. So for sort, if you don't say anything after sort, it just sorts the whole line based on what's at the beginning. And it does it by not a dictionary-based sort, but by a collation-based sort. And all that means is that it's looking at the character's code in your character set, the code you'd have to send, to get that character to display, and it's sorting by that. So this has really cool characteristics. I think that's how it works. That like lowercase characters are greater than uppercase characters, and spaces are greater than either of them, or something. It has weird characteristics, right? Or spaces are less than. They come first on the list anyway. So usually that might not be what you want. We saw that you've got -h, to sort so that a human can understand it. That's what we did with this third column. So the key was the third column sorted so a human being can understand it. If the fields aren't separated by white space, you can tell sort that you can tell what the terminator is, like you can with a lot of these other commands. So that's a -T because you never know what it's going to be. T for terminator. And so you can say -K 1, because in Etsy password, they're not sorted by the name, right? Kind of dumb to sort on I wouldn't have had to say a terminator, right? But this sorts on the username. Let's sort on the third column. And then to see if it's sorted, we're going to have to throw it into that column command, because otherwise it's going to be all snaky, right? So column T-S. There we go. Oh, here's what happens if you don't use a human readable sort, right? 2 is bigger than 114 because 2 is bigger than 1.
Unix sort.
That's a lexical sort. It's a dictionary sort, right? So we go back and stick that H in there. Say, no, that's not what we meant. Now you'll get it out the way we think it. No. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the wrong column. I was like 121.46. Oh, here we go. So it's the third column, and it came out sorted the way we'd expect, right? Okay. Sort. Oh, and unique. With a Q. So sort, I didn't include. Sort has a unique parameter. Some of these by the way, it's with most of these things in Bash, you can put -- and just hit tab. It'll show you the ones that I didn't put on the cheat sheet. But if you're sorting, you can ask for the output to be unique. But if you have a list of items that you want to be unique and they're not, you can throw that at unique and it'll take care of that for you. So let's see. I'll just leave that for now. WC is word count. We used this one before. So if I look at, and we'll just keep picking on Etsy password. You look at word count, you get 4 things out. The last one is the actual file name. And what it's telling you is the number of lines, and technically this is the number of new line characters that it found. And then the number of words, that's how many, it tokenizes by white space. So it found 57 tokens separated by white space, not counting the new lines. And then the last one is the byte count of the file. And there are some parameters that I added here. You can control what you see as output. As soon as you specify one of these, you're in control. You won't get anything that you don't specify. So if I say -- cars, you'll just get that. Now, if you stream output to it, you don't get a file name because it wasn't read from a file. It was read from the string, right? Read from standard IO. How we doing here? Permissions, we don't need to look at the scripting stuff at the end, but we talked about permissions like once, didn't we?
Yes.
And so because we have 7 minutes left and permissions is a big topic, I'm going to ask you to review this first part. Overview of permissions. This is when you do the ls command, you get, if you do the long version, right? You get this thing out. Woo! Trying to make it bigger, but that -rix, because it's really hard for me to say all those letters. That's called the mode. That dash means it's a regular file. The first 3 means that the owner can read, write, and execute the file. The next, probably should be on one line. The next 3 in the middle here means that the group associated with the file can read and execute it. And the last 3, R-X, means that everybody else, others, can read and execute the file. By the way, if the file is a directory, you might wonder what it means to execute a directory if you haven't thought about that before. And it means, what's it mean to execute a directory?
Nothing.
Nothing, to enter it, yeah.
I took away your execution privilege. It did not
It
like that.
That didn't work.
It didn't, was not having any of that.
Yeah, don't make your directory read only.
She just asked me when we're gonna be done.
Oh, okay.
When are we feeling? 15 minutes?
Oh, well, some of the people need to be done before then. So
I'm feeling 15.
So then I added that you can do chmod and chown. Chmod like this is where you set all the permissions, replaces everything. So that's where you have to use the numbers to use as your decoder ring. You can also do this kind of thing. G plus X means that you're adding execute to the group. So if the execute bit's not set, you're going to set it. What I wanted to point out is we haven't talked about this, I don't believe. Get fackle and set fackle.
Ever seen my entire life.
All right.
So that's weird that you bring that up. The Debian doesn't really do that in the box.
No, it's not installed by default, and it's because
unless you use Fedora.
Oh, okay. But I didn't know that. But it's not installed on Ubuntu either by default. You have to install it, which I did yesterday. And the way you use this, let me go back to let's go to temp. So I'm going to make a file here, and I'll call it fackle.txt or whatever. And so if I run get fackle on this, well, here first let's run ls-l on fackle.txt, and you can see there's the mode. This is the default mode for this for this location. It's a file, we need that, and it gets read write for the owner and read for everybody else. Now, if I run get fackle on the same file, I get the same information, a little more explicit, right? But well, a little more, it's organized differently. It splits the mode up into 3 separate lines, which, why don't we just use this to get the direct, right? Why don't we tell people this is available, and then we wouldn't have to explain what that stupid mode section means, right? But there's a set fackle command. Remember there's a user named Mike on this computer, right? So I can say, I hope I get this right. Might have to look back. Wait, I've got my notes surreptitiously up on this screen. I can say you Mike, and then I got the dash. I forgot the dash in. I knew that was supposed to be there. So this is like a modification. Yeah. So I can say my user Mike should get read write. Okay. If I do that, I think that's right. So fackle, that would help. Thank you. On that file, not just on the general ether in the air around us.
You can't set it to dev null.
And now if I run get fackle on the same file, I get this. You see that the user associated with the file, see, do you notice there's 2 colons there? There's nothing in between. That's an empty column. The user associated with the file, it's the owner, has read write. But now there's something in between those 2 columns. The user, specifically the one named Mike, has read write. The group, empty field. The default group for this file has read. The mask, which comes into play when we create, if we reset the permissions, that has to do with what happens then. And then other, the world, has read. Now, how's this don't look? Well, I guess you can't on this file, but what's going to happen if we look at ls now?
It's going to be the same, I guess.
It's not going to be quite the same.
It's going to be weird.
It's going to be weird. That's the right answer.
It's going to be wrong.
I think it outputs the fackle properties. You do that.
Just has a fluff on it.
It has a plus.
Look at that hat.
Okay.
Do you have fackle?
I just ran Fackel. I changed root to read write.
Well, maybe it's because it's root. I don't know.
Well, you are started using Arch. So
Yeah.
Well, the answer is it looks weird. And this is why LS is inadequate for this task. Once get Fackel and set Fackel are around, you see something like this on your competition server. Oh, you don't know what's going on unless you look at set Fackel. You don't know what the permissions are for that file. So, and look at that. It's 12:30. I said we weren't going to look at the monitoring stuff because that keeps coming up naturally, and the scripting basics we've already looked at. So, just like we planned it.
It's part of the master plan.
Yeah. Sorry, that was an incredible monologue. I've been up too late. You think? I've got to ask a question. What do you guys think about the number of questions I asked today? There's one.
I think it's a phenomenal number. One.
I think we're a little bit below the average, but it's okay.
We are.
That number of questions.
I mean, I heard are we recording? That was a good one.
I asked that one twice.
Oh, shit, that means you're at 3.
Oh, wow.
I think we might be on a record here.
Even when I asked you to take a poll or whatever, I told you. I don't think it was a question. Was it?
There was the question, do we have a second?
You asked that, right? Yeah. I think Dan asked more questions than I did.